from the southern mountains. Headwaters, a part of Appleshop.
If everybody in the world was on TV, there'd be nobody out there to look at me. It'd be funny as it could be if everybody in the world was on TV. Heard just stories of Robert Crusoe ever since I was a small girl. And
who told you about him?
My mother. They'd always tell her, and when she was growing up. And then they'd always tell me the same things when I was growing up. And then I'd always tell my children the same things, trying to keep them from getting out and getting hurt, you know.
I remember they did tell us a lot of ghost stories to scare us a lot of times, I think, so that we wouldn't go, say, way back in the woods by ourselves, you know, or something like that.
My uncle used to come and tell stories, and we used to get together and have a good time, just telling old stories, you know, about ghosts and just everything, you know.
Would it scare you?
Yeah, back in them days it did, but, you know, now I know there ain't no ghost, and I know there ain't no witches because, well, a lot of people are afraid of the dead and witches, but I'm not because I go out and get me a blanket. I wouldn't care to go up to a graveyard, lay down at night and sleep. I am not afraid of the dead people. It's the ones alive I'm afraid of. And so I just love the stories, you know, and I love to tell the stories like, well, one time there was a farmer and a witch got a hold of him. What I mean, put a spell on him, what he thought. And he went and his cow went dry, and his sewing machine that his wife couldn't sew and everything else. And so she went and went out to milk her cow, and she couldn't get no milk, and the calf was starving and everything. So he went and said he's going to get rid of that witch. So he, on a barn, you know, he cut a toe, took a knife, and he cut a toe, and he took a rock and he beat it all to pieces. And he told his family, he said, now be sure and don't loan nothing to nobody. He said, so the spell will be broke off that witch. So that day, you know, that witch is her family and every one of them, they kept coming and they wanted to borrow this and wanted to borrow that and one sold it and everything else. And so, but when he drawed that toe, he drawed it like this. He drawed the toenail, and he drawed her toes like this. And then when he drawed it like that, then he come right back with a rock, and he beat that all to pieces like that. And then when he done that, why, he went and, you know, after he beat the toe up, why, then the next day or two, we heard that woman, she went to the doctor because she dropped the iron on her toe and she mashed it all to pieces right in that bone, you know, it hurt it. And then these people, they never was bothered anymore with it. Well, my parents' name was Andy and Tennessee Slone, and I was born in the head of Hollybush. After I was about 6 months old, Poppy and Mommy moved down to Lackey, and that was about 1930 then, I guess, somewhere around there. And there was some sort of disease went around that killed just about all the children at my age. And I was about 18 months old. I could walk, talk, and so my black hair had all shedded off, and I had blonde hair at that time, and it was curly. And so I took this disease, ever what it was. Mommy, I've heard Mommy say it's some sort of fever. And I got so poor that they could count my teeth through my upper lip. And they'd have to turn me with a sheet. And so I died one morning. And they went and laid me out because I didn't have no pulse, no heartbeat or anything. And back them days, they didn't have any undertakers. They'd just, you know, make you coffins out of wood and cotton and fix them up pretty. And so my grandfather went to get my coffin made and to get my grave dug. And So Mommy and my grandmother was there, and they was hurt over me. Well, when the rag dried out of my face, you know, where they put alcohol and they'd wet a white rag and spread it over the dead people's face with the pennies on their eyes. That's the way they fixed me. And so when the alcohol had sort of dried out of the rag, well, my mother went to get the rag off my face, and when she did, she seen my lips quiver. And she hollered at my grandma, and she said, "Now, you better come quick," said, "Florida's still alive." So my grandmother come, and she started working with me, and I come alive. But I had this fever so bad to where that I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. And about 3 years later, my brother was born, one next to me, Brother Garland. And, well, he could walk and talk and everything before I could, because I had to crawl, and I couldn't talk. And the doctors told Mommy that at that time that I'd never walk, talk, nor, you know, wouldn't anymore, said I wouldn't have any mind or anything. So I guess y'all can tell that. When I seen my little brothers and sisters younger than I was, talking good, and everything talking pretty and plain, and me going around, I couldn't talk. Well, it put me in misery. I was ashamed, and I'd go to school, and I was ashamed to play with kids or ashamed to be with them because they could talk pretty and plain, and I couldn't, and they'd all make fun of me.
Teacher, teacher, please tell me, where have all the butterflies gone?
They couldn't understand what I'd say, you know, and so they just wouldn't try. Just stick me in the back corner and just any way to get rid of me. And then when the end of the school come, even though I'd just go maybe a couple of weeks a year, then they'd give me a pass, you know, pass me on to another grade to get rid of them, is what it was. Now, I never did have any help. Oh, little children may gone away, but they'll come back again someday. Someday, and it won't be long, all the little flowers will come back home. Brother Garland, no, he helped me. You know, me and him get out, and well, even my parents didn't even know that we were done this, and he'd help me, and he'd say, "Now you got to speak this word, you know, like this," and he'd tell me. I'd speak it like him till I learned to speak it, and it wasn't long till I could talk as good as him. Poppy always hunted way in the head of a holler to live, and back in them days we didn't even have good roads. You'd have to, a sled and a mule's all you'd have to get in and out. And as I look back, I used to feel sort of hurt because Mommy'd send them all to school except me and Brother Garland. But now today, I just thank God that she did keep us at home and help her, because Mommy needed that help. Sometimes she'd be pregnant and there wouldn't be nobody around, and so I'm just thankful to God today when I look back that she kept us at home and where we could help her. And when I was real little, I wasn't big enough to get out. Well, I used to go out and see all these pretty clouds going by, and I'd wonder, well, someday when I get grown, I'm going up to the top of the hill on a real hot day, and I'm going to reach out there and get me a big snowball. I always thought there were snowballs. And you see, where you grow up, if you get education and things like that, you understand how the world's made and everything. And when you don't have education, well, you know, you don't know.
You make it up.
Yeah. You have to make up your stories where you're not educated. You have to make them up from what you know, you know. Back this summer, outside of the bedroom in there was a apple tree, and I called it the Bird's Courthouse. Because every morning out there, I'd hear them birds, and there'd be a little bird up there about middle ways, and there's an awful crowd of birds around that poor little thing. And the birds would be hollering, "Cheater, cheater, cheater, cheater." And the poor little bird would go, "Surrender, surrender." And then about the time they'd leave that poor little bird alone, that big red bird up in the top would holler out, where did you go, go, go?" And then when they'd hush, that red bird hush, while down there on the ground, you'd hear katydids and say, "Did you, did you, did you, did you, did you, did you?" And then it'd start all over again, that old red bird. He'd holler down again, where did you go, 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 go?" But a red bird hollers so many different ways. back in February, they was hollering, skip, skip, skip a do, do, do. And then they started hollering, pure, pure, pure do, do, do. And then you listen to them, and all year they have a different holler about every month. One kept following me from winter to winter, but I don't know, he'd act like it wouldn't tell me something, really. I'd go there and put my hand right on that window and talk to it, and it would not move. And I loved it. I'd go and talk to it, and he'd follow me all day, and then I made a song about it. Oh, the wind that blows and the rain that falls makes me think of the little cardinal bird's calls. He come and sat on my windowsill. The songs he would sing, you could hear over the hills. Till one day he brought a mate. They both sung as if their hearts would break. I know it's hard to believe that a little cardinal bird would sing to me. Well, you know, I had a real beautiful dream. You know, I was dreaming of searching for stones, and I dreamt of seeing a old big pile of pretty stones you ever looked at. And I dreamt I took my hand and pushed back, and I got a little small stone about the size of that. And I dreamt when I pushed it back, it was so pretty that you could it just lit up the whole world. It was so pretty. And I dreamt that everybody in the world wanted that stone. And I dreamt that when I got it in my hand, that I closed my hand, and I said I'd never let go of that stone as long as I lived. And I was so happy because I had found the stone that I had been searching for. And dreams, people has to all time remember that some of them just may not mean much to them, but now there's a lot of them is deep and they're precious to you. And some of them's a comfort to you through life. There's a music that I have heard, and it's like water, like dripping water. You know, there's a part in the Bible where it reads about that, but I have heard it. And they say it's a voice, music from heaven. I've heard that, but every time I hear it, there's a death. It hardly ever happens to somebody dies. But it's something that I wish that the whole world could hear this, because it's beautiful. When I heard it, I was only about 9 years old, and I went and told Mommy that one of us was going to die, me or her baby. She was expecting a baby, and I told her, I said, me or your baby, one's going to die, Mommy. And she said, why? I said, I heard the prettiest music from heaven I ever heard in my life. And then a few days later, my little sister was born, and she only lived 13 days, and she died. Like when my mother died, it was pretty hard, you know. And I always thought, well, when someday or another, I hope God will help me to where I can make a song about her. And then one night it come to me. And when it come to me, I sung it about all night, one whole night. Last night I dreamed I died and went to heaven way up there. I dreamed I seen my mother rocking in a golden rocking chair. I seen Mother, she was not alone. Jesus kept watch over her and her heavenly home. Now I know she's with Jesus away up there. I dreamed I seen my mother rocking in a golden rocking chair. Mother, she worked so hard here in this land to raise her children. She done the best she can. Now I know she's with Jesus away up there. I dreamed I seen my mother rocking in a golden rocking chair. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, come, Lord, carry me home. Poppy, every evening, he'd get his song book, hymn book, and he'd sing we'd all sing, get around and sing. The one I remember most of all is Precious Memories. And we'd have a good time just singing, you know. Back then, though, if you sung any kind of song, it had to be a Christian song or they'd whoop you. Yeah, they thought it was, you know, big sin if you sung just a little jig or something. You had to be a Christian hymn. But I love to sing them back used to. I used to go around all day singing, making the songs as I went, you know. Some people taking vacations, a pleasure of this life to see. I'd rather be on the mountain and feel the heavenly breeze. I'd rather be on the mountain and feel the heavenly breeze. Thank you, God, thank you for the bees. First time when I met Austin, it was real funny, you know, in the way I went over to stay with my aunt. She lived up in the head of Trace Branch in Caney Creek over at Pippa-Passes. And so me and my cousin Nan, we went over to a little store they had over in the head of Hollybush. You had to go across the hill. And I went over there and we had to go over and get some groceries. And I got over there and I seen Austin, but I thought he was green, his dad. I got back to the house over where my aunt lived, and I said to her, I said, you know what? I said, Green Slone's the prettiest man I ever looked at. She started laughing. I described him to her, and she went and started laughing. She said, well, that's Austin. Said, he's not married. Well, my uncle went and told Austin about him. Well, he come over there the next day to borrow a horse's collar. And he come over to borrow a horse's collar, and then we walked over to the store, and we got started dating, and we only dated about 2 weeks, and then we got married. He was 27, and I was 17. And when we was a-dating, well, he'd bring me some Cracker Jacks. He'd bring me a box of Cracker Jacks, and so there was a big rock up there in Trace Branch where we'd sit there, and my cousin was with us. She'd sit there and talk with us, Nan. And we'd sit there to eat Cracker Jacks. And I'll tell you right now, if you got a girl you love real good, you better take her some Cracker Jacks. I tell you, death leaves beautiful memories. And we just don't realize that till they're gone. So now it's like a movie in my life. I can remember, you know, I go back through lots of working and days we went a ginseng hunting and just days we was raising our children up, and it's a beautiful memory to just think back, you know. In a land of wondrous beauty, that far I've seen my fondest dreams, where the air is pure and real, loaded with the breath of flowers. They are blooming by the fountain, sprinkled with the heavenly showers. Oh, how sweetly Jesus whispers, take thy cross, thou need not fear. For I've tried this way before you, and your glory lingers near. Well, you know, me and Austin first got married when we moved to Hollybush, and he'd go all the way into Beaver and work on pipelines and log, do stuff like that, and he'd come back and I'd make my garden, taking care of the children, and so we'd raise us a lot of cattle on the side and raise us a garden, a few calves, and we'd keep our hogs, chickens. My recipe, I've worked on it 40-some years. And I put nutmeg and vanilla flavor and a lot of stuff in my gingerbread that most people don't even put in. And I put a little humming, a little whistling. And then I pit it and I pat it. pit it and pat it all around, then I put it in, I said put it and pat it here and there, I pinch it out round and it comes out square. That is gingerbread. Ain't that right, Ju?
Uh-huh.
Where we lived in there, well, it was the fur in there. Time you'd have to carry your baby and little children walk out there, you couldn't hardly get out and in. And so I just wouldn't ever go because it didn't. To me, I'd rather just stayed at the house and kept the children there and enjoy them. And on Sunday, then all the children around and come in and we'd tell jokes and play games, and they enjoyed just getting out and watching nature around, watching the birds fly and how they built nests. And they'd enjoy just the nature then and watch bugs, bugs make hills, and just little things like that. People would get started and you'd enjoy that all day long. I went out this morning to breathe the morning air. Funny thoughts come through my head, they've come from everywhere. Oh, the corn was shooting and the beans was running and the cabbages laughed and said, can't beat me 'cause I'm already ahead. I looked down to the end of the garden and seen an awful race. The watermelons and cucumbers was running all over the place. Well, funny thoughts come through my head, they were coming from the start. Up on the hill I thought I heard a dog would bark. I enjoyed it, and a lot of people now says to me, how in the world do you raise your children? Well, when you love them, you just don't look at it work like it's work, or I didn't. I'd go ahead and take care of my children and enjoyed them.
I tried to raise them the same way that, Mommy and Daddy raised us, but I think the times have just changed to where it's impossible to think they're going to be like us because they live in a whole new world. Because like I live in Michigan, my kids were born in Michigan in the city, and that's so much different than what we were raised. That I guess sometimes, I do find myself thinking, well, they should be more like me. Well, they're not going to be because it was a totally different world they were born into than what I dealt with,
Mm-hmm. So it's that security and that love that we always had, even though we didn't have a lot of other things, maybe. But we didn't miss it, or I sure didn't.
Them days, all of them was together, and I was happy, but I didn't know, the happiest days of my life was when they was all running around here playing. I didn't know it back then, but now it's. I wished I had them back. Them a playing and cutting up, well, that'd sound like better music to me. All my children, they are grown up and grown. They seek in this world to live a life of their own. In my memories, I visit them each day. I can see all the families as they all gather around. I can see all the children as they all run and play. Thank God for the memories God didn't take away. If I'd known back then what I know today, I'd raise my children better in many ways. But it's all in the past now. Here's all I can say. Thank God for the memories God didn't take away. Yes, I watched my children grow up. One by one they went away. Till my home is so empty today. But I smile and say, Lord, I try to make a new start. They're not gone from me, they'll always be in my heart. Then I'd gladly say, thank God for the memories God didn't take away.
As a kid, it was funny, and I look back on it now, and I can remember little bits and pieces of it. And sometimes I don't know if it's something I actually remembered or something I dreamed,
I can, in my mind, always visit Holly Bush, and that was the time for me when, things were perfect. I had my mom and my dad, I had my brothers and sisters, and my needs were met, and There was happiness, there was love. It was like a paradise almost, I guess. But we can't go back. But in our minds, we can always visit those places, and I do quite often.
The children, when they'd come in from school, they would come in and study their books and things, because Austin, he'd tell them, now if you all study real hard, you can get through school. And he just, some way or another, he would work with them to where that they would learn.
And he used to even tell us to bring our books home so that he could read them. And so everybody used to think we were always taking books home because we liked homework, but that wasn't the case. We'd take them for him to read them.
And read history and geography. And
right,
all that.
yeah, because he loved like history and stuff. And then Mommy, you know, she'd always say, well, I can look at the pictures. I don't know what it's saying.
I couldn't be more proud of my mom. She's really trying to make a big effort to go back to school, to do something that she's always wanted to.
You know, where Daddy did everything, she couldn't write checks, you know, and stuff, or even driving, you know, like she's learning to drive and stuff. And I do think, you know, the older you get, it's a little harder, but when you see someone that age doing that, it makes you realize that you can do whatever you want if you really want to bad enough.
Because so when you're able to read books and things, you see it broadens your mind to where you can think better and everything. It makes you feel good about yourself.
Hi-oh, skipped-a-maloo, stepped on the gas and away I flew. Tried to drive my whole life through. Hi-oh, skipped-a-maloo. Hi-oh, skipped-a-maloo, stepped on the gas and away I flew. Tried to drive my whole life through. Hi-oh, skipped-a-maloo.
I enjoy myself, and when God has given you talents, I think it's a sin to not use it myself. And, you know, you can enjoy yourself because we're here just for a little while anyway. And I believe in enjoying it, trying to every step of the way. Traveling down the road of life, I travel alone, trying to be happy deep within. But here I am, Lord, I bingoed again. Playing bingo, some people says it's bad, but I play bingo, try to be happy instead of sad. Trying to be happy deep within, but here I am, Lord, I bingoed again. Playing bingo and I feel just fine. I play bingo, try to exercise my mind. Trying to be happy deep within, but here I am, Lord, I bingoed again. Yes, here I am, Lord, I bingoed again.